Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Wait a minute, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No. Now I can hear you.
You can hear me. Good. Okay.
Simon, good to see you.
Likewise. How are you?
Are you younger or
everything's good. We're growing and developing, and more work and more countries and more traveling, but positive. And then obviously the last 6 weeks has been challenging.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about
exactly.
it.
So
I love the setup you have over there. Are you at your office now?
Yeah. This is my office here. I can't turn my computer around, but I've got so we're in a big building, and I have a nice lot of light coming in from my window, and yeah, all good. But it's just me on my own. Everybody else is.
But you said you are far from the family. What got you locked down in your office?
Well, no. When we spoke, I was at my mother's. Unfortunately, my stepfather passed away 5 weeks ago, right at the beginning of the lockdown. So I ended up in a situation where I went up to support her, and we were arranging the beginnings of the funeral arrangements, and then the lockdown happened. So I ended up based at her house up in Nottingham, which is 3.5 hours from here. Okay. So that was the situation. Then she's now with my brother, and so I'm now back down in the south.
Good.
So my office.
I am very happy to have you here, and I'm very happy to having the chance to help you out. Let me start recording this so we can use this for you and for me. And first of all, I wanted to thank you enormously for all the things that you're doing. Simon Mason, the big long arm of the law, as you were nicknamed. Amazing career, Simon. Amazing career, I should say. We met about 4 years ago for the first time, and you made a wonderful impression, because besides the wonderful athlete that you've been, you are an excellent person, and you are developing enormously as a business person, delivering a lot of value added to the hockey community, among others, I understand. So let me give you a quick reference of, so we get a little bit more into the details of who is this fantastic Simon Mason. I made a couple of summaries that I think it's relevant for the people to get to know you better if they don't know you yet. Okay, you've been the president of the England Hockey Board, as well as a member of the Athlete Committee of the International Hockey Federation. Nothing else, nothing less. You've been an executive board member of the European Hockey Federation, and lately since 2005, you are a managing director and owner of Merchant Sports. Something that I would love to remark here is something that I fell in love when you were launching the new brand, or the new, let's say, image of the company. Winning is never a coincidence. Mm-hmm. Someone who has been in 3 Olympic Games, 96, 2000, 2004, who is a winning award bronze medal of the Commonwealth Games, almost nothing.
It's very kind of you to put that summary together. There's positives and negatives from it. I don't disagree with anything that you have written. It's very, very kind. I think that the one thing that comes out of that is a mentality. What, if any of your listeners, anybody listening to this, will contest slightly, is that as a sports person, the goal is always the Olympic Games, and I don't have any medals to show from that competition. There is a very exclusive club who hang Olympic medals around their necks, and whilst being an Olympian is an exclusive club in its own right. When you've been to one, you realise that we've been to one games, you realise that there is another step, and that step is to stand on the rostrum and to hear your anthem played and to be the Olympic champion. And that's not something I and my team were ever good enough to achieve. So I'm not going to claim that I ever reached the pinnacle of elite sport, because I didn't. As an individual, I tried to be the best that I could be, and that led to some personal accolades, and I made the world team on a couple of occasions, that kind of thing. So if to simplify goalkeeping as stop little white thing going in big netty thing, then if we simplify it down to that, I was reasonably successful at a very simple job as part of a team. I think the one thing that sports performance gives you, and that comes back to the winning is not a coincidence, I think it allows you to develop a mentality that then gives you the opportunity to succeed. Quite simply, if you're willing to continue to learn and willing to work hard and not take anything for granted, and you're able to be self-critical and critical with those around you without it becoming a personal thing. So I spent 15 years with a coach telling me every day that there was something that was not good enough. And that develops, I think, an ability to take on board criticism and understand it's not personal and that it's born out of somebody wanting you to be better. And I think that is one of the most valuable lessons that I've then been able to take forward into a business career. So that the winning is not a coincidence, I think, is born out of a behaviour. It's not luck. It's what you work towards, and it's where you put your brain and your mind when things get a little bit tough. But yeah, that's kind of my overarching thing from my career, if you like, the CV that you kindly put across. It's a series of organisations, but the mentality is always about trying to be as good as you can be, and more than that, as a member of teams, because all of those things you spoke about are teams. They're boards of directors, they're groups of people, there's a company with staff within it. I don't do individual very well. I do people. Sorry, I like working with people, and I like to think I can add to teams. And that's, for me, that's the great thing about being involved in lots of different organisations.
I fully agree with you. I also come from a background of teamwork in my career. There is something very remarkable, which somehow almost all of us have the tendency to do, and that is basically that we try to diminish ourselves. You said that certainly your ability to develop or to swallow that information that your coach has been telling you, that there is something always extra to develop from yourself, help you develop that mentality that there is always a better step or a higher level that you can achieve. The basic point there, Simon, is because there is people that believe in ourselves before we learn to believe in ourselves. And I'm pretty much happy that you bring that to this conversation, because basically that mentality is the one that you deliver in life, and that's why your slogan, if we want to call it like this, winning is never a coincidence, because it's a continuously, repeatedly, relentlessly pursuing of the improvement of oneself by believing in oneself that there is something always better to give to the other people. So surprises me, it doesn't surprise me really, but it surprises me that we all have the tendency in our humility to say, we are all part of a team, and we've been only just a goalkeeper, or I've been a rugby player, but basically what you have done, what you have achieved, it's something that even if you haven't achieved the pinnacle, like you said, having the gold medal on you, being there, it's already an achievement, because you are, or you were back then, one of the 21 people who within a country represented a country, which is, I remember when once you told me, I used to live home and 1 kilometer left was a pub and 1 kilometer right was my club. And I always said, should I turn left or should I turn right? And you always turn right. And that brought you to the escalation in your career,
Yeah, and I think they are the choices that we make, and it's easy now, and what am I, 47? So it's easy now sitting and looking back over the years and what influenced you. You started, Gustavo, with the long arm of the law, and that's something that people bring up, because I think when they Google it, it's the first line that comes up when they Google it, and it was born out of, the reason for that was because the first coach who got me into field hockey was a gentleman called John Law, who even now, he's now 77, and I see him, well, not at the moment, I don't see him, but I try to see him every month for lunch. And he was an absolute believer in performance and not accepting mediocrity and wanting, he was a headmaster of a school, and he started hockey in the school when it was not a school sport, it was outside of school time. And at one stage, he had 27 players in one school performing in the regional teams around in the UK. At one stage, he had a goalkeeper in the England under 16s, under 18s, and under 21s all at the same time. And he was renowned for his ability to develop players and just not allow them to accept.
I would say that mainly the mentality that he would develop in the players with talent.
Correct. And he didn't allow people to, the English phrase is, sit on your laurels. He didn't allow us to relax, and he wanted you to be as good as you could be. And sometimes that is a painful process as a young 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old player, to be driven to that level. And some people fell away, and they always will. And my personal belief is that life is a challenge, and there are winners and there are losers. I don't believe in participation medals. I believe in participation. I believe that everybody should be given an opportunity and do what you can. But I believe that life is about winning. We don't all get the job we want. We don't all win the contract we want. And you have to learn how to win and how to lose. And there are some people who are equipped for that. And therefore, I think what he developed in me was hugely valuable. And not wishing to get too personal, but my own father passed away when I was 15, and he was the gentleman who took me home on the day that my father passed. And he was a really central figure in my life and my development until I was 18 and went off to university. And that mentality is something that you grip onto. And I believe that it equips you better when things aren't smooth. It's easy to be successful and energetic when you're winning and you continue to win, but it's when something goes wrong. It's when you have to cope with adversity. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I just think that you become equipped to deal with it in a more positive and optimistic manner.
I think that the most important thing that you will agree with me is that this gentleman managed to develop a mentality of winning. I always had a coach. I wish I could see it. He's 83 now, but he lives far away, but we have contact. And he always told me, there is no friendly matches. You ought to play the matches friendly, but you get out there to win. You get to win respect of your opponents. You get to win respect by the referee. You get to win experience. You get to win when you lose, how to learn to turn your weaknesses that made you lose in that match, your strength. So next time you become successfuler and you are kind of wiser because you learn from the weaknesses. And this is what basically, I think I have the same grace that you had, and I'm eternally grateful for having such a kind of people who pushes to me when I was young, like you, and you might didn't understand at the very beginning, but then suddenly you learn that that was for your own good, you know, and that's what makes you. And that before going into this present situation, I want to said something. I received a quote this morning, which I would really love to pass over to you and to read now. It says, cooperation. It's no individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people.
And I couldn't agree with you more. Even before you'd said that, it was interesting. I was going to take the conversation because it gives me a chance to speak a little bit about the people that have been influential in my life. It's and pure coincidence. They're all called John. That's why it's an easy example, because John Law was the long arm of the law. And then I had a coach called John Cott, who was my club coach, who took my club to the European Championship. Only 2 British clubs have ever done that. And so he was a John who took me through my club hockey career. And then there was the national goalkeeper coach, who was a guy called John Hurst, who's only just retired, and he's coached multiple Olympic team goalkeepers. He himself was an international goalkeeper back in the, I guess, 70s and 80s, but he's only just finished and retired as the British national goalkeeper coach. And then a guy called John Wyatt, who was my best friend within hockey, but was my captain in Sydney. And he then taught some of the personal interactions about being an individual. And you're absolutely right. That cooperation and the people that you are lucky enough to be surrounded with, or you choose to surround yourself with, enable you to do the things that you have no idea how to do. Because one of my favorite quotes is, we don't know what we don't know. And therefore, if people aren't willing to feed into you and challenge you and say, well, why don't you do this? You remarked on our rebranding process. The rebranding process was something I had in the back of my mind 5 years ago, but it wasn't until an individual I met sat me down and said, if you don't do this, the company will die because the world is moving too fast. And it was so uncomfortable. It took us completely away from everything we'd ever done and the assumptions that we made. And it's great to have those people that you trust enough to challenge you. And so the collective of Johns were the people who were the real foundation for my own understanding. So I just am agreeing with that cooperation statement wholeheartedly.
Hey, listen, in order to change, you need to change. And something you had been doing in your mind, there is a system that I always promote, which is something that take me through to everything, which I call BBC. And that stands for be, become, and create. You had your new image, which you know that, or which you knew back then, that it was going to take your company to the next level. Probably you've been a little bit pushed by the driven force that maybe if you didn't do that at the right time, or you didn't take the decision, either going left or right, your company will be suffering much that it could be suffering today. The point is that you did take that decision, and you took that decision when this guy Sean told you, hey, listen, if you don't change this, in that moment you were prepared. The company was prepared. The market was prepared. I knew merchant from the old ones, and I know merchants from the new ones. And although I don't know the interiors parts, the details, I like the new merchant, since you took it over and you give it that twist to the company, than the older one. The older one was just another hockey supply company, in my view, as a let's say as a consumer. Okay, the new company is a company that it's giving the people the impression of increase. There's always something more. There is an advice. There is a topic. There is something that you bring to the fields that gives more to the people, which is very important, because through the situation that we are going, it's going to still make differentiate the company from other companies. Okay, and this is something that I would like you to describe. How are you living? How is the company? I mean, you, because you are the matter, the soul of the company, together with all the wonderful team that you have, which is supporting the brand, supporting the culture, supporting the athletes. But how do you and the company are living through this situation? What's going on in the company's and Simon's mind? It's important. You still, believe it or not, you're a reference in the market as an ex-top athlete and as a relevant business person, and you prove that to be. So it's important for the people to know how that mentality that you learned to develop through the years are now being of extremely value to navigate the company through these moments.
I think that the primary choice that we made, so essentially our marketplace has stopped. It's been postponed, and consequently, because nobody globally is playing hockey, very few people are thinking about hockey. So whilst there are some companies who can sell a little bit, then yeah, we're doing that. But you're talking about, not wishing to share figures, but you're talking about our April revenues are currently sitting at 4% of budget. That's the sort of difference within the business that we are facing and having to deal with. So what we've decided is we've gone in a different direction to some of the other hockey brands. We've looked at the structure and the position of the business, and what we've seen in the marketplace is that a brand, so we are a wholesale brand, we sell to our shops and our shops sell to the consumer. What we've seen a lot of the brands do is they've come back inside their own organization, and instead of involving this big group of their retail partners, they've gone direct to consumer. So they've said, you know what, we're going to control how much we sell, and we're going to do some aggressive price structures, and we're going to basically just sell as much as we can, and we're going to cut out our middle group of partners. We decided really early on that the danger of doing that is you then spoil the relationships that exist from a wholesaler to a retail shop group to then to the consumer. Because there are 150 brands in the world, and I'd love to claim that we are unique. Yes, we have some fabulous technical product. Yes, we have some great sponsored players. But essentially and honestly, if you take the paint off the top 20 or 30 brands of hockey sticks in the world, they are very, very similar. And it would take somebody with a real intimate knowledge of product and understanding to be able to differentiate between them. Because they're made in some fabulous factories. It's well controlled with imported goods and resins and materials to make high quality product. So what we need a brand strength, which is the rebrand that we've already alluded to, that we've continued to create over the last 5 years, that impacts on the consumer, the end user's desire to buy a Mercian product. The choice we made is we are going to continue to push that demand back to our retail partners. So we're not going to take that demand and bring it to ourselves and then sell on that direct line. We are still taking all of that demand and pushing it back out. So all of our social media programming is linked and tagged back to retail partners in specific areas. All of the offers that we make to the market go back to those retail partners. They can then take those offers out to the marketplace. So we share the success, and what we hope will come out of that is then when we get to the end of this situation that we are in, is we've maintained and possibly enhanced the relationships that exist with our partners. And so when they are then choosing what brands they will then invest in, they come back to us because we've supported them. So that was our primary decision. We had a long conversation about, do we go direct, or do we continue to work with these people who've shown us support for, in some cases, 40 years? I mean, we're over 45 years old now, and we've been with these companies right from the very beginning. And to cut them out of that loop, I just feel is wrong. And maybe some of your listeners or whatever will criticize me and go, you need to be colder, and you need to be more specific and more precise. But my brain doesn't work that way.
Everybody is entitled to think about whatever situation it is, the way they're better or possibly better understand the situation. In my personal opinion, as an ex-athlete, as a business coach, as a person with 27 years of experiences, I profoundly support the decision of the board of directors of Mercian, because at the end of the day, as you said, the technicalities and the specialties in building up a hockey stick or the gears of a brand, there will vary in a minimum differentiation. But what really counts is if I can count on you at the end of the day, or whenever we are sailing on stormy waters, you will try to save yourself and leave me on board. Okay? That's the point. In business, such as in life, to me, there are three mainly pillars. And basically, I want to explain a little bit more why do I support this profoundly. To me, there are three important things that you need to always aim for, and it's by the way that you decided to go ahead and to respect the people. It's people feel themselves well respected. Okay. Secondly, they feel, however we want to call it, but they feel loved in the sense that they know that they can count on you. And third, they know that you will always revert to them no matter what the situation is, because you know, and talking again about cooperation, no matter what the situation is, you are in all in this together. This is on the side of the partners. On the side of the consumers, however, what difference will it make if a hockey stick sells at 250 euros and you decided to cut the middleman and you're going to sell it to me for, I don't know, 180, I said, okay? The point is that if I'm not playing, I'm not buying. Then what difference does it make to me if you put it at 180? I am not going to buy it because it might take 1 year, or I might have bought or received as a representative of Merchant, I might have received my stick gears at the beginning of the year, so I'm not going to buy a new one. So I think that the decision, it's wrongly taken, but that's in my consideration on both sides, business-wise and personal-wise, relationship-wise. At the end of the day, if I have to build up a relationship back again when everything is over, I will build it up, or I will invest more in those ones that I can believe in those ones that I can trust in. Because I know that at the end of the day, the sticks mechanics and the products used are as good as the one in brand X, Y, or Z. Okay, so basically, but the question is that you mentioned, and I wanted to go into the problems that these situations are occasionating, because I know that this is all being suddenly and everything has to be stopped, and no one was prepared for that. But once again, weakness into strength. How are you and the board of in your board of counselors, directors, or all your people are turning these weaknesses or seeing these weaknesses into the strength by the time that we have to go back to the field? Never better said, no?
Yeah. The first thing that we've looked at in order to exploit the situation that we are in is what it has given us is time. It's given us time because it takes away the day-to-day activity that we had to do, that everybody had to do. We have a relatively small team, and everybody has a daily responsibility within the processes within the business, whether that's a design function or a accounting function. And you always have a list, a things to do list, that you never get to the bottom 3 or 4 things, because there's stuff that happens every day and you do 10 things and 6 more come in here and you never get down here. And we've therefore looked at the list from the bottom up and said, what have we wished we had done that we've never done? So we've done some of the most boring projects in terms of data creation, data cleansing. We've gone to our biggest e-commerce partners and said, right, in an ideal world, what data do you need from us? What would make our relationship easier for you? So how can we create stuff that you need? And oh, don't get me wrong, I have spreadsheets on my screen that are the most boring things. You look at them at night to go to sleep, but it means you can create this database of, to give you some examples. So our office system is a Sage accounting system, but then we have Shopify, and then we have WooCommerce, and all of these platforms need different data. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to create a master data list that covers all of these different items that we can then just give to all of our partners. They can then strip that data out, and we then become the easy people to work with because it's the least amount of work. We've then stripped out and rebuilt our warehouse. We've reallocated everything. We carry approximately 12,000 sticks at any given time, but about 3,000, 25% of those are old models. Now, if a customer, we have a clearance list, we send it every week, but if a customer sends in a clearance list, my warehouse staff were having to go and find the box. So the inefficiency of finding maybe 5 clearance sticks out of 12,000 in a box in a warehouse is horrendous. It might take an hour to service an order for only €100. Whereas what we've done is we've built completely new racking in the last 3 weeks, and we can now physically touch every single hockey stick in our business. We can walk down one row, touch every stick. So the efficiencies that we bring into the business because we have time are huge. So again, we can then service our customers quicker, and because of that, our own efficiencies have then increased. So we've just launched a direct dispatch fulfillment system. So depending on how big the customer is, we will allow them to put our entire product range on their e-commerce platform, even if they don't have stock. And so when they get an order, we can fulfill that order for them from our warehouse. So there's none of the double shipping. There's none of the double timelines. We can go from us in the warehouse, not to them in the retail. We can do this piece, but then everybody benefits from the reduced cost and the reduced time.
On behalf of them.
Yeah.
The most, without getting into the details of that massive work that you all been doing within your team, this morning I was share a post on my LinkedIn saying that there was a research in the market that 42 in the Netherlands, the 42 of the workforces that are working from home, 42%, they just in rough lines, okay, I'm going to give it because I don't remember the details exactly, but 42% of them, let's say they wake up, they skip the shower, mainly men. They work on a pyjama. They don't do the routines that they used to do when they used to go to their offices or to their regular affairs. And I say, why is it that? And I'm going to tell you how do I relate this to what you just say without going into the wonderful details that you just gave us. The point is that why is it that people have the tendency to, when things comes down, to change their habits instead of improving them? You understand? I mean, what you have done is a conscious decision by saying, okay, I have a list because I have the same with me. And because of all the priorities that are coming on top every day, a business calls you because they have certain problems, so you have to jump onto it because you have a certain agreement on coaching or on mentoring, and another one says, well, we're going to postpone your speech for the next week. So, but then you said, okay, fine, now it's my time to improve all those 10 or 20 tasks that I always keep, you know, like, okay, let's put it on the back of this, I will come to you later, you know. So why people, instead of improving like you have decided to do, why is it that people have the tendency of instead of improving or getting their weakness into strength, they get their strength into the weaknesses? You understand? Because basically what you have done is a logical step, because you know what happened in the middle of the match is that you go back, you go to the dugout, okay, you stand there, you take a breath, okay, because you know that within 5 minutes you need to get out, so you need to be fit back again, because there is another half time or another quarter to go. So basically, you have done something that you needed to do in order to be more productive, in order to be more service-oriented to your partners, but also to your consumers, to be more effective into your warehouse, which makes the difference between a company that dispatch products behind a wonderful re-imaging every year with new colors or with more attractive image, instead of a company like yours that's giving the impression to the people that you are first here, okay? So basically, that's why I wanted to bring it back, because when I ask you how are you navigating these times, instead of facing the problem, what you're doing is you're building on the strength of that problem. Because you know that this is not going to last forever.
No, and it shouldn't do. But I think what I've learned maybe only in the last 3 or 4 years, to be honest, is that you use the words common sense, and I think common sense is only a function of your own beliefs and understandings, because common sense is not common. And I've tried to read a couple of books, and I'm not smart enough to read some of them. My brother is a really smart guy, and he sent me a book about the black swan, which was the only predictable thing within business with
I know,
unpredictability.
never split the difference.
Oh, and I was just, I can't, I read the first couple of chapters and then asked him to summarize. But anyway, and I think there are people who will naturally think about problems and they will try and solve those problems. And then there are people who won't. And there's nothing wrong with that. And when I first came into business, I got very frustrated by people who wouldn't see a problem and try and solve it. They just identify there was a problem. But that's because my brain works in one way. Other people's brains work in another way. Some people are very happy and are vitally important to get up, go to work at 9 o'clock, do their job till 5 o'clock, and then leave at 5 o'clock and go home and forget about it. And that is the way that their mentality is and will always be. And they are vital in our society as much as I make the assumption we will try and find solutions and continually drive and push, because we're a different mentality. And once I'd accepted that, it made things a lot more satisfying, because then I wasn't looking at things with my head. You try and understand other people a little bit better, and we are all different. What I do find interesting is the pajama analogy. And it's something I've always tried to say. Now, don't get me wrong, I've worked in pajamas before, but in principle, I think when I'm coaching, and I don't do much field hockey coaching anymore, but I do a little bit, I always say to people, what is the value of the warm-up? And for me, the warm-up has very little physical relevance. It has a complete mental relevance. So when you're talking about the structure of the day, for me, the get up, the shower, the put on some clothes that are relevant to the day, have a cup of coffee, and that is your mental warm-up. So when you sit at your desk, you're ready to attack your day, having warmed up, ready for it. You're not sitting there, I can have a video call with anybody at any time because I'll look like I'm trying to be at work. For some people, they can't have a video call because they're still in their pajamas. It's just preparation, starts preparation, and I can go on for a long time, but I think if you put your brain in the right place to try to be productive and positive, you stand a better chance of a good outcome.
It doesn't matter if you show up in pajama. The point is that the pajama mentality.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I have a conversation with a very close friend of mine, a very successful guy also in the insurance businesses. He moved and he's living now in Spain, and his youngest daughter is 8 years old, and obviously in Spain they are locked down. And while we were on the conversation, he showed me that her daughter Juana, she was attending the lessons with the uniform of the school.
Yeah.
And I said, did you make that? And he says, no, the school forced them because they are not at the school facilities, but they are in the school. So they need to be reminded that they have a certain way to behave, that they need to attend the classes. In fact, my friend says, she's running on the breaks to her mother because she needs to eat a breakfast or lunch, because she needs to get back as if she was in a break. And she's following the lessons all over, just like us, with the same timetables as she was at the school. Now, and then you make these two comparisons, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind people working in pajamas if you feel better and you are much more productive to that. What does that mean? Once I've heard that Richard Branson, if he wants to test you, he invited you for a meeting at 2 o'clock in the morning at his home. And he receives you at his bed.
Okay.
Just because he wanted to know how focused you are. Not every time. But this is a true story of him. The point is that what I'm trying to say is that doesn't matter if you're in pajama or no, it's with your warm up, what you say. Are you ready? To me, there are 3 important things that I've been doing, and even when we know each other. I was preparing for that meeting, I was practicing for our meeting, and I was envisioning how could I be of help to Simon, to Merchant, because I think that those three things are the responsibility that I have as a person, as a businessman, and as a human being towards you. You understand? The same that you mentioned that you have with your middlemen, your partners, you have with your consumers. You want to know what your consumers want, so you want to be preparing, so you practice what you're going to give to them, and then you envision how you are going to deliver it to them. You rebuild all your warehouse, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to take much of your time. I know you are too busy getting the layers from the underneath the pile to put it into the priorities, which I love that, Mason, Simon, because I think it's a wonderful analogy. But let's see what can we give as a close up to the people that are following you, that have been following you through the last years, as an athlete, as a representative of the country, and as a businessman now. What is it that we can give them to close up in order to motivate them, in order to say, hey, we are thinking about you, hey, turn your weakness into your strength by doing this or by thinking about that, building the good and not focusing on the bad, because we all are suffering from this and we all need to get out of this. So how are we going to motivate, inspire, sparkle them?
How do we do that? It's a very good question, because it could fill many books, and I'm sure it has. I'm sure people far cleverer than me have written.
That's always good. What book you just mentioned about Never Split the Difference from the Black Swan? I don't remember the name of the writer now, but he is an ex-FBI. Anyway, it's a book that I read not that long ago, about end of last year. But what books do you read, or are you reading, or what are your head books?
So I use books for two different purposes. One is to fill my brain with not working thoughts. So I deliberately pick books that I can just storybooks. So at the moment I'm reading an author called Joe Nesbo, who wrote a book called The Snowman, but has written many others. It's a crime thriller. So I read those books. And then I also read, or try to read, books that other people recommend to me. So the most recent one is Shoe Dog, the story of the Nike development. I forget the guy's name.
Wonderful.
But I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And what it really brought home to me is that people perceive Nike or all these big companies to be beyond our reach, but actually it's just the number that is bigger. The principles are exactly the same. They still have cash flow concerns. They still have stock issues. They still have logistic problems. It's just on a bigger scale.
Exactly.
So I have this joke when I speak to people and they talk about budgets and how much. So as I said earlier on, that my April budget is being decimated. I mean, it's down over 90%, but it's kind of just zeros. And so whether it's $90 or $9 million, it's all relative to the size of the business. It's just a set of zeros. So I think that, therefore, to answer your question, I like fiction to fill my brain, and I like business stories and sporting stories and trying to learn from other people.
To inspire your brain.
Yeah, to inspire my brain. Exactly. So that's from that perspective. To go back to your question about,
can I recommend one book before you go to the...
Please do.
You talk about principles, and I fully agree with you. 30 years made me see my business grow from scratch to €1 million a year, and as I always looking up to the big ones, because I wanted to be one of the big ones. I fully feel with you when you say it's all a matter of zeros. Whether it's 990 or 900, it's the same projection. But yet, I fully agree with you. There is a matter of principles, and there is a wonderful book written by Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is one of the largest, if not the largest, hedge funds. He started from scratch, and it's called Principles, and it's a book that everybody should read, because I think Ray Dalio has his company has a management of 20,000 million. I mean, it's Bridgewater is his company name. He employs about 20,000 people. He started completely from scratch, and yet you will see that he says that there are basic principles that you have to follow in any kind of business and life behaviors. Mm-hmm. It's a very easy book to read. It's only 160 pages. So it's one of those books that you read on a summer vacation or on your trip somewhere else. But having said this, please go ahead with your...
I've written that down, so I'll pick on that up later. I think, what is it? I guess you have to have self-belief. You have to believe that you have the team to come out the other side of something. And I'm saying that very deliberately, because without some of the strong people around me, I'd have sat and looked at this situation and said, I'm not sure what the path is. And there are people, when you have a bad day, someone else can have a good day, and that can drive you forward. So surrounding yourself with some great, honest people is fabulous, because that honesty then allows you to reflect on things. So that's the first thing, is have good people around you. I think the second thing is to never assume you have the answer. So ask the idiot question. Be prepared to learn more about things that you don't know. I love having time to go and when I was at school, I did art. I'm not very artistic. I'm process art, so more technical drawings, but I love going on the tutorials to learn how do I create a background for a new product or a new social media piece. Not because I want to create them all, but I want to understand how our designer does it. And then I can understand, are they taking the right amount of time to do it? So using time to generate personal knowledge, I think, is very powerful. And then I guess it goes back to some combination of the principles you've talked about. If you're honest in your approach, then actually the most important thing, therefore, because of your honesty, it develops relationships. And I think in business, it's the relationships that matter, because I think people in the end will buy from people that they have a relationship with. I understand the market can be price driven, but when price isn't a defining factor, then when you pick up the telephone and somebody sees on their caller ID that you're calling them, will they answer the phone? And if they will, then you have a business that they value, and then you have a chance of succeeding.
Even if they said, I call you later, I'm busy.
Yeah. And they do call you back.
And yet they did call you back, absolutely. But the values are very important. And absolutely, that is something that not only your partners, but also the people using your sticks and your gear feels them when they go. I have the fortune that my daughter is one of your talents. Okay.
Yep.
So not to say that I'm playing with advantage, but just to say that I know things by closer than somebody else is. We just buy one of your gears in any of your partners' shop. I know with how much dedication is she been taking care every year that she says, okay, what is it, what you need, test this, tell us what you think. You are in a speed, so you are a winger, or you are a defender, so they take the time to learn, to feed you back, so in the next season you can improve that little tiny things. So when they go back next year, that people represented that brand, they will say, hey, I feel that this has been tailored, I feel that this, so it's always what I said, giving the impression of increase, that not really the money, the amount is, but the value that you give to people. And talking about principles and talking about values, that's what really remains behind it,
Yep. I agree.
I am going to make a wonderful summary of this, because once more you reaffirm I'm very strong in intuitions and I'm very strong in perceptions, but it's always good when that intuition and perception that you first perceive, it's reaffirmed when you have the chance to talk with someone and you said it's worth spreading that voice, Simon. And I am someone that believes that business is not only Peter Drucker, one of the fathers of the economy, Peter Drucker, if not the father of the present economy. He always said that the final aim of a company is not piling up money, but bringing services fulfilling the needs of people. And I think that to me it was a great fortune to find in business my way to delivering my aggregation to the society. And I'm pretty happy that the new mentality of the business entrepreneurs, it's like deliberately bringing the businesses in order to put the consumer and the partners on the top of the scale. So we're going to make a good one out of this, and I'm pretty sure that people will have the chance to really know a little bit more in details what's been cooking through the whole time within this wonderful kitchen of immersion, Simon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to chat to you. It's been great fun. I've enjoyed it. So yeah, I'll look for it on the platforms and share it, and we'll see if we get some comments back.
You will get that from me. Thank you very much for your time and your dedication to the community.
No problem. Thank you for asking me.
Take care. Have a wonderful day. Take good care. Stay hungry.
Bye-bye.
Bye.